Five. Books out, books out. So, some of you might still owe me a test or quiz. Let's get those done, please. Um, Come on in during one of your off periods to take care of it. Some of you are coming back and getting half your points back on tests and quizzes. So come in and see me 4, 5, or 6. We can do it. Or first. I'm off first too. All right. So on Friday we went over the homework from 2-2. All right. So we've been talking about correlation. Correlation is R. R is what Desmos will find for you once you plug data in, or we will actually tell you what R would be. So correlation is how good does your data fit to, using R, a line of best fit. The R squared is used if you don't have a straight line and you have some other shape you're going with. So that's the big thing, the correlation. The closer the correlation is to -1, meaning your slope's negative, is really awesome. The closer you are to +1, which means your slope is positive, is also really awesome. The closer you are to 0 means you have very little correlation, okay? So the computer will find you a line of best fit with correlation close to 0, but it's going to be pretty bad. All right, so R is a very important indicator to tell you information based on your data, okay? So where R starts fitting into the world of stuff. You ever watch those commercials and there's little disclaimers down at the very bottom in a font that's too small to see even if you have that 80-inch TV? Okay? That's a lot of times in statistical stuff where you will find correlation. Okay? Which I know it sounds goofy because it's like, well, why do they put it in a place we don't look for it? Correlation is not that interesting, but it's a very important part of statistics. Most people just want to see the picture and draw their own conclusion based on the picture. They don't want to be told what they're looking at. Okay? So it leads to an idea that it is plausible to predict an outcome from another. So plausible is like the possible, right? So you don't always necessarily, you can't always make a true prediction based on data. You can just see what the data might be implying, and it might be something that's good for you. So a few things. I know I talked to you. Yeah.
When you look at the graphs where it's like the correlation between two subjects, like really perfect, but they have no, like, I guess, connection or
If that's just pure luck.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think those are
Yeah. So I know I talked to you the other day about like investing and how to make lots of money. So as of today, the Dow Jones, the S&P are both down. NASDAQ is up. So if I made a prediction based on one day towards financial gains, one day is not a good picture. When you look at a whole lot, if you have a lot of time and a lot of data over a lot of time, that is very meaningful towards stuff. Okay, so correlation. Friends, you see this bolded thing? You might want to highlight this. Correlation never by itself implies causation. Oh, wait a minute. So correlation. So correlation is your R value. Okay? So they found in 2003, Harvard called a prospective study of fruit and vegetable intake and the risk of type 2 diabetes in women. And they found a negative correlation that is higher consumption of fruits and vegetables is associated in some way to a lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Okay? So you can find this particular study online if you ever want to look at it. So they're saying by eating large amounts of fruits and vegetables, and you are a woman, your risk of getting type 2 diabetes could be lower. Okay? But you got to be real cautious off of that stuff. We, including most your guys' generation, You see a snippet come across on social media, and your generation will take it as the gospel truth. And that's what you have to be careful with, because we've seen things very much sway the opinion of populations just based on some silly meme that somebody sent off. And you're like, oh, this has got to be true, therefore it is. Okay? Shoot, we are inundated these days with so many political commercials. They don't even have room to put any of the drug commercials that tell you that some of the side effects of taking this medication. Okay? Which those are more entertaining to me than any political ad, especially when you listen to the side effects. Side effects could be death. Okay, I'm not taking that. I don't want to die because I take a medication. So the natural question follows. If people eat more fruits and vegetables, will the risk of type 2 diabetes go down? In other words, does the increased fruits and vegetables directly cause lower risk to type 2 diabetes? The problem is that both variables could easily be associated with many other variables. Those other variables might or might not be true causes of one of the true causes. It can get complicated of type 2 diabetes. Okay, so do you all take vitamins? And you might buy an energy drink because you're like, sweet, it's got 11,000% of my vitamin B. Okay, it's crazy. What does your percent say on that Monster?
230% vitamin B6 and 490% vitamin B12.
Okay, you want to know what that causes?
Everything.
Kidney stones. A higher intake of vitamins, your body will only absorb a certain amount. Okay? Your body has to process those minerals somehow if it's not absorbed by your body. So basically your kidneys take on that function to absorb out those crystalline structures, aka vitamins, and then you evacuate them through urine. I kid you not. This is how your human body works. So, why do those energy drinks promote such a high oomph of the vitamins? Well, one, people think, I'm going to drink it. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy a Monster energy drink like the next person. Okay? And I've actually made the mistake one time driving all the way from here to Arizona. I got myself 3 Monster energy drinks. And by the time I got to Albuquerque, I drank all 3. I was like trembling. I was like, dude, I'm rocking and rolling with this stuff.
Rocking
and or rolling. Okay, so other factors that go along with diabetes. Okay, so let's say somebody decides they're going to eat more fruits and vegetables, but they're going to continue to eat their really bad diet. They're just going to eat more. Oh, that means I can eat more. Therefore, I'll eat fruits and vegetables. And it's like, well, yeah, now you're 310 pounds, type 2 diabetic. I'm like, but I eat fruits and vegetables. Yeah, but you also put down 3 Big Macs at McDonald's each day. So there's several things. The vitamin supplement companies thrive on, they'll find something saying, hey, we found this is good for you. Okay. Now, my wife is all mad at me because I take potassium iodide tablets. Okay. There's a small little gland called the thyroid. Falls right about here above your vocal cords. It's about the size of a piece of 0.7 pencil lead. And it basically controls your hormones. And in most men, starting at age 40, the thyroid starts getting goofy. Women's thyroid starts getting goofy after childbirth, usually. Okay? So there are vitamin supplements you could take, but you can also take ground up pig or cow thyroid to allow your thyroid, your body to take place. So I have been on this thyroid medication, and I'll go to the doctor and they'll draw blood and they're like, okay, thyroid level's this, take more medication. Well, I did a little experiment a year ago. I decided, because one of my doctors that speaks in my medical class had told me, try taking potassium iodide each day and see what happens to your thyroid. Well, last time I went to the doctor's like, oh my gosh, it's almost like your thyroid regrew. So then he cut my medication down. But I was taking potassium iodine, which is basically sea kelp ground up in powdered form and put into a capsule. Okay? So I found something that works. Does that mean it works for everybody? No. I'm the one anomaly that it worked with. I'm the data set of one. That's a really bad way to jump around with stuff. Okay. So all those variables might be linked to decrease of risk of type 2 diabetes, which one or ones is the cause. There's no way to answer this question based on a scatter plot or correlation. We discover relationships and associations with scatter plots, but not cause. Okay? This raises a question that we'll answer much later. How do we establish cause? It's coming next semester. Okay, in 2014, it says a study at the University of Minnesota examining the impact of later high school start times and health academic performance of high school students. Okay? Guys, we just went through this not too long ago. There was a time that this school started at 7:20 in the morning. And they're like, no, there's studies that show teenagers need their time to rest. Okay? They're like, and these are things that they came out with. You will have less students tardy, less absences. And we found it's the exact same. We don't have any difference in tardies and absences here at this school or anything in the district because we now start at 8:20 versus 7:20. Okay? So they made this huge push going, oh, look, study show, study show. Chris Stirrup wasn't in the audience on that one because my hand would have been right up saying, dude, kids like getting out of here at 2:30 in the afternoon. No, that's not our study show. Yeah, they do. Okay? But they didn't ask me. I wasn't invited. So, cause and effect. So, 2014 says research found a positive association between students who started school later in the morning and their academic performance and general health. This is an issue that is obtaining nationwide attention. In fact, many school districts have altered their schedules to accommodate later start times as a response to this type of research. Okay? There was a study done in the mid-90s, and the study ran in newspapers. Back in the day, we didn't have the social media, so we had to get our information from newspapers or watching the news. So in this study, it said that consuming a glass of wine each day is good for your heart. I'll say that again. Consuming a glass of wine each day is good for your heart. Okay? It became viral. Wine sales went through the roof. People are like, sweet, I could drink wine and it's good for me. Good deal. Do you guys want to know who put on this study? Very close. The Grape Growers Association. Okay, the people who grow grapes, who sell their grapes to wineries, made up this fictitious study. And wine sales went through the roof. There was also a time that someone was mad because they were buying eggs that were sometimes cracked, and they were all mad at the egg people. So they decided to make a statement, this is back in the 80s, that eating eggs was bad for your heart. Okay, so these people had an agenda against the people who are going out at 5 a.m. and getting eggs. And egg sales plummeted. Okay? Eggs are not bad for you. Okay? I mean, I have been subjected to the 70s and 80s growing up, which was a really kind of a cool time to grow up. But there was so many fad diets that showed up. Hey, good to see you. So there was a diet that came out years ago. This is back in the mid-80s. And it basically said, if you can eat as much of this cabbage soup as you want. It was basically you put a head of cabbage in 2 gallons of water, boiled it, add salt and pepper. And they said if you do this, you will lose weight. And it was like, well, yeah, one, it is possible if you're just eating cabbage, you're going to lose weight. But people are swearing by it. Oh, man, I dropped 20 pounds. It's like, what are you eating? About 14 gallons of cabbage soup a day? Yeah, your body, you're filling your void of your stomach, and it thinks it's full because you're filling it with cabbage soup. You're not really getting the nutrients. There's all kinds of people getting all unhealthy because they were doing this. There was another one that came out with the supermodels, and the supermodels, like Cindy Crawford and those types of people from the 80s, that if you just eat carrots, you will have a good weight. You know what people do by eating carrots? What it actually did? People started turning orange. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So you'd be walking around going, that person isn't tan, they're orange. Because people are like, oh yeah, these carrots are so good for you. It's like you turned orange. Okay? So correlation is a great way for creating theories, but not proving them. Correlation, the R value, is a great way for creating a theory, but it's not proving them. Okay, so between 1924 and 1932, a factory in Illinois known as Hawthorne Works conducted a series of studies to see if improving the work environment improved productivity of employees. The company experimented with lighting, the cleanliness of the factory, relocating workstations, and made other changes while researchers observed the measure of performance of workers. The data demonstrated a positive association between these aspects of the environment and worker productivity. Okay, this is a classic. Okay, so remember in elementary school? You guys remember this in elementary school? Remember recess? Like I couldn't wait till recess because I was that kid. But when I was a kid at recess, you always wanted to go to a location where a teacher wasn't able to monitor you because there's always a teacher out there with a whistle watching kids play. Okay? So the kids that were playing around the teacher are always well behaved. The kids that were like my group of friends, we were like throwing rocks at each other and stuff. It was awesome. Okay? So why did we behave differently when we came across the teacher? Well, because we were being monitored. So I remember the school decided one time that they were going to have 5 teachers outside during recess versus 1. And they're like, the behavior has so much changed. No, we are now being monitored. Okay, we weren't better acting kids. We were still tick turds. You guys know what a tick? That's a little shit. You guys can use that. So something called the Hawthorne effect takes place. If you're changing certain aspects to a work environment, and then you're going to stand over and watch people work, they are going to produce the effects that you want because they are being monitored. It's not because you created a better environment. Okay, so the Hawthorne effect is very much a real thing. It really takes place. Okay, if you are being monitored, you will behave differently than if you're not. Okay, so it's interesting. I'll watch Principal Silva. I really enjoy him. He's a fantastic principal. You guys are very lucky to have a principal like Principal Silva. But I will watch teachers do this. They'll see Principal Silva walk down the hall, and you will see a teacher go, oh, there's something on the ground, and pick it up and throw it away in front of the principal. I will see that same teacher where there'll be a mound of trash out in the hallway, just stand there and look at it because there's no principal coming by. That teacher acts very differently because, Principal Silva's not really walking around the building, make sure teachers are picking up trash. But it's funny to watch how people act differently. Okay? My daughters always did the same thing. I come walking up when they're with their friends. Oh, hi, Father. How are you? Oh, my kids have never called me Father unless they're in front of their friends. Okay? But it's just kind of funny that they change their behavior when an adult shows up. Okay? Shoot, my daughter's now off at college. Not quite sure I want to know all the stories, but hey, college is college, and they seem to be having a good time. So, things that you need to make sure. Hawthorne effect. Okay, it is real. It is on this page. It's down at the bottom. Okay, a result of this exact study, this phenomenon that people don't behave normally when being researched, it's called the Hawthorne effect. Friends, again, how do you behave? If any of you have ever taken an AP test, aren't you amazed how kind of well-behaved people are during an AP test? And you got 26 people walking around making sure kids are on task. Okay? It's
Would a similar example be like how criminals, while they're being interviewed or whatever, they'll be like good or whatever?
I think that could partially be all in there. Definitely. All right, I'm flipping the page. Turn the page, if I can. All right, the previous page had a scatter plot. You couldn't really see it, but the scatter plot shows a strong connection between fat intake and cancer rates worldwide. Consider the follow-up analysis of the scatter plot. So the diagram is some evidence, the theory that fat causes cancer, but when the evidence is quite weak because things aren't equal. For example, countries with lots of fat in the diet also have lots of sugar. A plot of colon cancer rates against sugar consumption would look like the figure on the previous page. Nobody thinks sugar causes colon cancer. As it turns out, fat and sugar are relatively expensive. In rich countries, people can afford to eat fat and sugar rather than starchy grain products. Some aspect of diet in these countries and other factors in lifestyle probably do cause certain kinds of cancer, protect against other kinds. So far, epidemiologists, there's a big old word, can identify only a few of these factors in any real confidence. Fat is not amongst them. Okay? There's been diets out there, low-fat diet, high-fat diet. Okay? And it's like, oh, look at this. Friends, what I have kind of monitored in my life is everything in moderation is fine. Okay? It's when you get to my friend Andy Munoz, who unfortunately passed away 11 years ago. He insisted, well, he's getting enough water because of the amount of beer he's drinking. And the last time I saw Andy was about 12 years ago. I was down in Arizona. And I remember getting myself one beer, and he would order 8 for himself. And then it'd be about this temperature in Arizona, so it's beautiful. And he'd be sweating like a pig. It's like, dude, your body is destroying itself. He goes, no, it's not that. I'm like, unfortunately, he died of alcohol poisoning. Yeah, unfortunate. Okay, so ultimately, scatter plots and correlations are very useful to identify variables are related to one another, but not for establishing any cause and effect. We mentioned earlier, establishing cause and effect is a complicated task, and we'll look about it later. Okay, writing a relationship. When journalists write about research studies, they often attempt to explain the study results and must be careful not to assume causation. Ideally, they would also write about the relationship between the variables in a way that suggests that the study did not establish cause and effect relationship, and further study might be needed to determine the true relationship between variables. Okay, so some examples. All right, example 1, let's assume the research study found a strong negative relationship between consumption of vegetables and cholesterol level. Okay, so a poor way of you writing this, a research study found that consuming vegetables is a good way to lower cholesterol. Okay, we got to be real careful. That's a bad way of saying it. A better way of saying it, research study found that consuming vegetables might. Guys, the word might. Might is a very safe word because you're not concluding. It's like, hey, there might be something to it. You might be right. might be a good way to lower cholesterol. The best way says a study found that high amounts of vegetable consumption is linked in some way to lower cholesterol levels, but more research is needed to understand the nature of that link. Okay, so notice this best way. It's pretty straightforward. It's something, you look at this best way. Okay, you, the writer, you're protecting yourself. I even think here, using the word might, you're protecting yourself. Here, with as Sue happy as our nation is, people are going to jump on that. Do you want to know a study that was done in the 60s? Okay, the Surgeon General of the United States. Okay, the doctor's doctor. You still with me on this?
Yeah.
Said flat out, have a cigarette after a good dinner. It'll calm your stomach. So the doctor's doctor of the United States, the Surgeon General of the United States, claimed that by having a cigarette after a large meal was good for you. Unfortunately, we've also found some bad things that nicotine does. Yeah.
You didn't say that it was bad for you. You said it was good for your stomach.
Good for your
Say
stomach.
that it was bad for your
Good for your
rest of
stomach.
body.
And you know what the actual thing is? Nicotine, the substance in tobacco and other things, is actually been found to have a really good effect for your digestion system. It calms it in a way. But for the rest of your body, yeah, your rest of your body's screwed. You might go by way of lung cancer going, well, look at this guy's GI tract, man. This guy's awesome. It's like his lungs are full of cancer, metastasized everywhere else in his body, but everything else is good. Yeah, it was a big thing. I mean, I remember going to restaurants when I was a kid, and you had the smoking section and the non-smoking section. And I will tell you the difference between the smoking and the non-smoking. Okay, this column here is the non-smoking section. These guys are the smoking section. There's a 2-foot barrier of air between. I remember being on airline flights where the last row of first class, we only had first class and regular class. They didn't have business class. So the last row of first class and like the last 5 rows of regular class were smoking. So you'd be sitting on the plane going, I'm just smelling this guy's cigarette. It's like, oh, no, but you're in the non-smoking section. It's like, yeah, but the guy smoked a pack and a half while only flying from here to Phoenix. It was ridiculous. I hope my lungs aren't screwed up because of the 70s, but they probably were. I remember sitting in a hot car with my grandpa driving, and he'd be smoking away. It's like, can I roll the window down? Don't roll the window down. It's too noisy. Okay, I can't breathe. I don't want to hurt you. Okay. I believe you, Grandpa. That was also when they didn't think seatbelts were that good of an idea either. Yeah, I made it.
Headrests were either, right?
Huh?
Headrests. They didn't think those were that like important either, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how we made it as a species out of the 70s and 80s. So you know the shoulder harness, it's now attached to your seatbelt. You have the one that comes across your lap, one across. It used to be 2 different things. You could have the one that goes across your waist. And then I remember getting screamed at by my grandfather because I undid the fancy coil of it from the roof to attach the shoulder harness. Don't do that, you'll ruin the car. I was thinking I know a little bit about physics, and when you hit the brakes like as hard as you do because you dropped your cigarette on the floor, Grandpa, I almost went through the windshield. This will hold me in place. No, just really put it back up there. Better be up there right, or you're going to get a beating. I kid you not. Actual, real conversation. Can't make this crap up, I tell you. All right, let's take a look at what we got. So Hawthorne effect, definitely a big thing. That'd be something you'd come across. Let's take a look at what we could do. We are on 2-3. Ooh, okay. All right, so 2-3 will be what we'll go over next time. What page is that on?
143.
1, 2, 3?
No, 143.
143, page 143 from back. I think tomorrow we'll have a review And then, how about I make a quiz Thursday? Deal? Cool. Everything else good? Yeah. Sure can.